Alright folks, today we're going to walk you through what you should need to know for playing a Fire Mage in Battle for Azeroth, patch 8.1. So overall, in terms of PvP, the Fire Mages are in a really good spot. They're definitely the strongest in terms of damage of all the three Mage specs, and the Mage should be looking to pair with a Rogue. That's probably your ideal combo if you're going for 2v2. Keep these awesome little components that are unique to Mage, Dragon's Breath, as well as Polymorph on hand. Come in super handy when you're trying to control the group and when you're really looking to tie up a healer. In terms of the strengths, some of the Fire Mages have awesome control, like we mentioned. Polymorph, you've got a Ring of Frost that we try to roll with as well as Dragon's Breath. We've got pretty good mobility. You can cast a few of the spells on the move, and they've got pretty consistent damage. Like we said, they're the strongest of all the Mage specs. Challenges, there's not a ton of burst here if you are comparing it to the other ranged DPS specs out there. The damage is pretty predictable. Like the sustained damage rotation gets to become basically a 3-button exercise pretty quick. And the real challenge, if you're a defensive player like myself, Fire Mages don't have a ton of defensives to play with. So definitely some elements to... When you start to think about all of the different characteristics as they exist out there, the stat priorities that matter to us the most are Intellect, Mastery, Versatility, Critical Strike, and Haste. Intellect is by far where we want to find ourselves. And after that, it's actually Mastery. Whether it's in PvP or PvE, that's where you want to stick with. In terms of different Azerite traits as they exist out there in the game, there's some pretty awesome components that exist. Now, a lot of guides out there say don't really look to stack a particular ability. Don't really worry about that. Where you want to go, load up with Fire Mind if you can. Blaster Master, Duplicative Incineration, and Flames of Alcrity are where you want to stick. For the middle ring, there's a couple elements that you want to really focus on. Gut Ripper is one of the big ones. Has an awesome ability to occur really frequent. In terms of the inner ring, where we want to actually be looking at Resounding Protection or Cauterizing Blink. Both of those are self-heals, and that goes a long way to keeping our fiery behinds alive. Going with what gear we're going for, obviously most of the time we're just trying to stack as much mastery as possible. But what you'll notice in terms of items we're going for, we're looking for that Dread Gladiator's badge that gives you the major intellect stack. So tag that if you can. It lines up really well with a 2-minute cooldown with combustion. Where we actually want to go after that though, if you can't get the Dread Gladiator's badge, go with the Dread Gladiator's insignia. Allow some spells and abilities to have a little bit more of a passive proc and give you that boost. When it comes to the different talents as they exist out there in the game, there's a couple awesome little themes you can go with. Anything along the first tier set is definitely a go, whether it's Firestarter, Pyromaniac, or Searing Touch. Definitely tag each of them at some point in time. When it comes down to the tier 30 set, it's a little different. I go for Shimmer. It's almost an automatic. I really appreciate the benefit from the mobility that we get. Up next after that is Incanter's Flow. I appreciate the benefit that comes from having the passive, and it's just some real easy components that allow you to continue to be mobile, which is really one of the strengths of Fire, as we mentioned a few times now. After that, you're going to hop over to the right-hand side of the Talon bar. You're seeing Phoenix Flames there. That's a big one for us. We use that to complement our Fire Blast. Get the two of them going, and you get your free pyro right off the bat. It's really key to your blast rotation. We will be walking through that in a few minutes. After that, it's down to the Ring of Frost. Pull that up. which is awesomely just critical. Anybody who comes in gets incapacitated. You want to tie them up as much as you possibly can, and it should really slow the party down. Following that, we're going with Living Bomb. This is part of our key rotation right off the bat, and what we're looking to do is really just try to spread as much damage as possible. If you're in a 2v2 and there's a healer on the other side, you're probably not going to be able to knock down that healer by yourself. So you'll be spending most of your time focused on the DPS, but this will definitely come in huge in terms of helping you out with a little bit of that exercise. Following that, we are sticking with Meteor. There's a lot of fun ones that exist out there, but Meteors is one of my personal faves, to be honest with you. Just dropping the big heavy heat. We'll do it here in a second. That's easy damage. All you have to do is ensure that your opponent is going to stick in that footprint for a little bit longer. It really kind of complements Dragon's Breath. You tag somebody with Dragon's Breath beforehand, get them incapacitated within a particular area, and then you get to have a lot of fun here really quick. I like the Gladiator's Medallion. I like to have control as to when I need that little emergency break. Following that though, you actually really want to go with this Temporal Shield. I've threw it up here a few times so far. It envelopes you in a Temporal Shield for 6 seconds, and 100% of all the damage you take while shielded was instantly restored. That is a gimme. It is better than a Paladin bubble in my opinion. Following Temporal Shield, Tinder really seems to be the automatic. And we'll show you in a second why. So it just allows Fireball to have a 30% increased damage with a 50% reduced cast time. And finally, I'm going with Controlled Burn. It really complements the Mastery Ignite, and it deals full damage 100% faster. But it doesn't spread to nearby enemies unless you've got Combustion tagged up there. So keep an eye on it. It's a really good damage talent, and it makes a pretty good complement for your sustained damage. In terms of racial bonuses for fire mages, the two real go-tos on the Horde side, I like to roll with, obviously, Blood Elves for everything. But realistically, if you want to go with a passive, that Orc racial bonus of hardiness is great. If you find yourself stunned a lot and having a hard time against some more agile melee classes that exist out there, those demon hunters drive me crazy on my fire mage. For Alliance, it's the human racial bonus, every man for himself. Tag that, and that gives you basically an additional Gladiator's Medallion. I love it. I run with that all the time. As far as fire mages go, the main role is pretty simple. Use the big crowd control and lock down the other team's healers. Keep that polymorph going as much as possible. That's one of the funnest parts of being a mage. Once that healer is locked down between Dragon's Breath, Polymorph, and if you really want to get a little cheeky, use Ring of Frost as well, you're in great shape. After that, you just can focus and burst as much as possible on whoever the main target is. Keep that going while the healer is in a degree of crowd control, and you will be in great shape. The nice part about mages, you can just drop invisibility. Allow that very quickly. And you can just progress 20 seconds here. That basically guarantees that you can get into a really comfortable position to drop a burst rotation right on whoever your target is right off the bat. In terms of that offensive rotation, there's a couple things you really want to focus on. For Tinder, it's got that fast cast for fireballs. Keep that well in mind. It really complements. Make sure you're using Meteor as efficiently as possible. It's just got such a long cooldown. You really want to ensure that it's basically complementing Dragon's Breath, so you can tag and keep your enemy exactly where you want them. And then your rotation for Critical Strike, keep an eye on your heating up procs, make sure that's lining up in the direction you want, whether it's through Fire Blast or Phoenix Flames. Get the hot streaks rolling, and then have a bunch of fun dropping all the pyros on your enemies as they exist. In terms of opener, where we really want to start, if the enemy has a healer, in the arena, what you want to do is drop that polymorph on them. Keep an eye on the diminishing returns tied with it, but if any enemy DPS use their trinket, you can crowd control the healer and then stun the DPS. Allows you to really burst down whoever you want. When you want to crowd control through your opener, you want to tag Dragon's Breath and then go to Polymorph. That should allow whoever you're playing with to absolutely burst and blow all their cooldowns on knocking down the main target. Spell Steal, any of the healings over time that you might see land on your main target, and then when you start your burst rotation, you actually want to drop a Ring of Frost. Keep that lined up and it'll make a pretty awesome difference there. From there, you jump right into the burst damage, get the hot streak rolling. Now whether that is through some Fire Blast, like what you've seen right there, or application of Phoenix Flames. Get it up, get to Pyro. From there you're going to Living Bomb, drop it on, Meteor. There it is, beautiful. After Meteor drops, that's when you hit Combustion. And once Combustion's in, it's pretty straightforward. You're just gonna go with the Pyroblast, the Phoenix Flames, another Pyroblast, Firebolt, Phoenix Flames, Phoenix Flames. And you can see where we're going with this. It gets a pretty juicy burst rotation really quick. You're in a really good spot. Keep Combustion up and active as much as you can. With a 2-minute cooldown, it actually should line up well with most PvP trinkets out there. With sustained damage, once you've got the Tinder buff rolling, keep the fireballs rolling. They can generate a heating up proc, and they just cast so much quicker. When you get the heating up proc, again, we'll run through it very quick. There we go. I'm going to drop a Phoenix Flames, but you can go with Flames or Fire Blast. Pyroblast from there. And then you're basically into a little bit of a sustained conversation now. So take an opportunity, drop a poly on any of the DPS that are causing you a headache, and then Scorch to stay mobile and get in a better position to cast the next polymorph. The overall goal, really, when you're talking about a fire mage, is consistent application of damage. Get those heating up procs, and use Fire Blast or Phoenix Flames, obviously because they're dropping some critical damage, to upgrade the heating up into a hot streak proc, and then there's a chance for Pyroblast to deal critical damage, which means you can use Fire Blast or Phoenix Flames again to generate another hot streak proc. Just seen us do it there. This is the power of the Fire Mage. It's pretty rewarding sustained damage, and it just can't be stopped. In terms of defensive abilities, the Fire Mage doesn't have a tremendous amount. There's not a lot of glass cannon mages out there. The big one obviously is Ice Block. In all of its wonderful glory, that's basically an invincibility. If you are absolutely out of shimmers and you don't have any other way to kite, use this spell. It'll keep you alive, which is pretty significant. The next one I really like, this is the PvP talent, Temporal Shield. It's a real quick period of time, but any damage that you take when that shield's up gets returned back to you. It's fantastic when it comes to Fire Mage survivability. There's a passive ability, Cauterize, that just basically gives Fire Mages a second life, prevents them from dying on a 5-minute cooldown, instead of burning your health for 6 seconds. It also increases your movement speed. You'll really experience it once Cauterize procs. You'll know what's going on really quick. It's really helpful when you're about to die, I'll put it that way. Lets you get some added distance. And can really complement your shimmer game as well. And then finally, the last minor one is Blazing Barrier. And that's just another form of Ice Barrier. Although the only difference here is that it absorbs some damage, but when you melee attack my Fire Mage, he's going to give you a little bit of fire damage back when this is up. Now that you're starting to understand what the talent tree should be looking like for your Fire Mage, what you really want to do is line up any kind of spells with combustion that you can. In 2v2 arena, there's not a lot of options that exist. Like we mentioned, pretty difficult to knock off a healer on a 2v2 by yourself, so you're going to stay pretty focused on enemy DPS before you use your burst rotation. So just make sure the enemy healer is crowd controlled, drop them down with a stun, or ideally you're playing with also a healer that can stun, and then the two of you should really just be playing off each other. After their stun runs out, use polymorph, and do not be afraid to abuse it. The real key elements you want to try to link up with, if you are a fire mage, find a rogue. Subtlety rogue is best, a disciplined priest, a holy paladin, or a resto druid. That's your ideal combo. I know it's pretty hard to find all those different healers out there, but stick with it. They're hanging around. In terms of 3-on-3 arenas, kind of a similar strategy of controlling the enemy team with slows and polymorph. Before you get to use any of your burst controls as they exist out there, if you're playing with a rogue, remember the polymorph has diminishing returns, so get them to complement your stuns with theirs. Some of the best combinations that exist out there for 3v3 is Fire Mage, Subtlety or Assassination Rogue, and a Discipline Priest. A Fire Mage, Arms Warrior, or Holy Paladin. That's my preference, to be honest with you. I really enjoy. I know Arms is a little different. They've got some defensives in their kit now, but it's basically like playing with a baby tank. It's pretty fun. So the Fire Mage, Arms Warrior, Holy Paladin is one of the best ways to go. Alternatively, Fire Mage, Feral Druid, or Holy Paladin, or Fire Mage, Destro Warlock, or Holy Paladin. So Holy Pals are really our friends here. Don't offend them too quick when you're giving them a hard time. Whoa. Why they'd play a boring class like a Paladin. That's primarily it, folks. Let me know what you liked, what you thought we could do better. Fire Mage, like we said, is one of the most powerful of all the mage specs that exist out there. I like playing all three of them. I think there's some real significant benefit if you know how to get these little cloth wearers to live up to their potential. So it's out there. Definitely check out, there's a few guides. I utilize Wowhead a lot to complement my understanding of the different specs that I play. Big shout out to all the content providers there. Alright folks, again, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button, or if you've got any questions, drop it down in the comments below and I will be sure to help out. Alright, thanks for watching. Later.